despite an offer by the Biden administration to hold talks over the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, the North Korean side has completely dismissed hopes of any breakthrough. This after Kim Jong Un's powerful sister appeared to dismiss prospects for early resumption of diplomacy. In a statement released on state broadcaster KNCA, Kim Yo Jong said, and I quote here, "The expectation which they chose to harbor the wrong way would plunge them into greater disappointment." Earlier, the Biden administration had extended an invitation to North Korean leader Kim Jong Un for talks on Pyongyang's nuclear arsenal. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan made the comments on ABC News as well. Sullivan said that the U.S. is prepared to engage in principled negotiations with North Korea.
Well, time will tell. What President Biden has communicated is that the United States is prepared to engage in principled negotiations with North Korea to deal with the challenge of North Korea's nuclear program towards the ultimate objective of the complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. We are awaiting a clearer signal from Pyongyang as to whether they are prepared to sit down at the table to begin working in that direction.
During a major party ruling meeting last week, Kim Jong Un analyzed the Biden administration's North Korea policy. Kim ordered officials to prepare for both dialogue and confrontation. This then prompted hope in the Biden administration that the dictatorial regime in Pyongyang may be open to dialogue. Kim Yo Jong's statement, however, indicates that Pyongyang may stick to its confrontational approach. Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden's special envoy for North Korea is in Seoul. Song Kim met South Korea's unification minister, Lee In-young, who handles relations with the North. The U.S. representative said the two countries agreed to pursue complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula through diplomacy and dialogue.
Most importantly, we reaffirmed our two countries' shared commitment to pursuing the complete denuclearization of the Korean peninsula through diplomacy and dialogue. We took note of the recent statement out of Pyongyang regarding their preparation for dialogue, and we hope to receive a positive response to our proposal for a meeting soon.
최근의 상황이 대화 재개를 위해서 매우 좋은 기회인 만큼 이 자리를 빌어서 북한도 조속히 대화와 협상의 장으로 나오기를 기대한다는 점을 말씀드립니다.
And for more on this, Richard Kimber is now joining us live from Hong Kong for more on this story. Richard, thank you for joining us. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Biden administration had offered to hold talks on denuclearization, but the North Korean side has completely dismissed any prospects of any talks or breakthroughs. How do you assess this?
Yes, these latest comments from Kim Jong Un's sister suggest there will be no high-level presidential summit between potential President Biden and, of course, Kim Jong Un, as we saw with the former President Trump. There were some suggestions that could happen after the comments from Kim Jong Un assessing that US foreign policy situation and suggesting both dialogue and confrontation. Her latest comments, as you say, dismiss that suggestion. She says that the US is going to be plagued with disappointment if it continues to harbour such optimistic ideas. Now, her ideas, of course, taken fairly seriously by foreign diplomatic circles because in recent years she's been seen as being a much more influential figure in North Korea's overseas diplomatic and political landscape. She's been present at all three of the former summits between President Trump and Kim Jong Un and has more recently been seen to sign off on key policy addresses from Pyongyang. So whenever she does speak on these issues, the world is listening far more closely than it may have done a few years ago.
Absolutely, Richard. Now, how do you think this very confrontational approach will affect the relations between the two sides going forward?
Well, President Biden is still keen on assuring denuclearization, as is the South Korean official state situation, as with Japan as well. That's why the US's special envoy is currently in South Korea trying to conform a unified approach with regards to the South Korean, Japanese and US stance. The problem really comes with whether or not North Korea is willing to negotiate whatsoever on this. Previously, it's insisted on having all sanctions from the US side removed in exchange for any form of denuclearization, even at the smallest level. And if that standoff continues, as far as current policy seems to be the case, nothing will change. The added pressure, though, at the moment that's most interesting for analysts to look at with North Korea's situation is because of the effect of the COVID-19 COVID-19 pandemic. Its borders with China are closed off, and many of its economic aid that's been coming through from Beijing seems to be slowing down. So it's in a situation now where it does need some level of international assistance and potentially some level of international support. And therefore, if it continues to hold out in this way with a confrontation-only stance, if there are issues within North Korea, and this is something analysts are trying to figure out right now, then it does put itself in a difficult situation if it's not willing to show any form of compromise or diplomatic conversation with the likes of the US.
Right, Richard. Thank you so much for joining us with all those updates. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.